All right. So this week's shiur will be on Friday, straight after Shachris. Yes, the Shachris says earlier, not last week. Shachris is 8 o'clock. This week is 7:25. Shachris.
Okay.
What?
I've been coming here half 8.
Yeah, but there's 2 Shachris. The problem is my son's already started back to routine.
I know.
What?
I'm telling me I have to come to the early minyan on time.
Or after you can come to the late, do the daf before the minyan if you want. We'll finish the time for the 8. Just in time. We're just in time for 8:30. It'll be between 8 and 8:30. Because I need to get to my what's the word for it? I need to get to the word zone.
So what time will it start?
8:05 to 8:30. It's a short show. I think unless we do a different time. I don't know when Charlotte's time would work. It's good time.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Right. We're up to Daf Lamed Hey Omud Aleph, top of the page. We know that on Succas we shake the 4 minim, 4 species. One of them, which is an esrog. The Torah doesn't actually use the word esrog. The Torah uses the word pre-eitz hodor. And the next Gemara is going to find how we work out the word from the words pre-eitz hodor. How do we know that comes from the esrog? How do we know it comes from the esrog? That is the next Gemara. Like we had that Dasman Naravos, now we have it by the now we have it by the esrog. Tanu Rabbanon. Pre-eitz hodor. 8 shetam 8 so your period shava that the wood and the fruit taste the same. Aber immer the esrog that is referring to an esrog. The Sefer Kapos tomorrow, and he explains as follows. If you look in the inside of an esrog, what happens is most fruit, the peel is quite minimal and the fruit is quite big. By an esrog, it is not like that. By an esrog, what happens is a large part of the esrog is just peel. That means if you look, very good. Oh, here's the picture. Can you see the picture?
Yeah.
So what happens is cut an esrog in half. Mishnah differentiates it and calls it 4 stages to the esrog. There's the very outer, very, very thin peel, which is shiny. Then there's a thicker peel, which is like greenish. I've got it. Then there's the white peel. And finally, there's the area where the seeds are. Since it is such a minute area of actual fruit, when we talk about the fruit of the esrog, we mean the white inside peel, because that's the majority of the esrog. And that is particularly bitter and tastes like a tree. But a lemon, it is true that if you were to eat the lemon, if you were to eat the peel of the lemon, it would also be very, very bitter. But a lemon, since the peel is not the majority of the fruit, the majority of the fruit is the inside, so therefore we don't say it's not going to taste like a tree. So time esrog, peel, shava is referring to an esrog. Second line, fade more. The rind. Oh, that's a good word. That's right. Very good. Ve'ima pulprin, maybe it's pepper. But here we're not talking about the big peppers that you buy like in a pack of 3 or something. We're talking about peppercorns, which are tiny little peppers, which I think the pepper which is ground is made from. Okay, Tanya, how do we know that it tastes like the wood? The Torah there is telling us the halachos of Ola, that for the first 3 years you can't eat fruit. And it says, you'll plant all trees of fruit. And since the pasuk is talking about not eating it, obviously we're talking about trees that produce fruit. Otherwise, the word machol in that pasuk is superfluous, because without it, we would never talk about planting a tree of fruit. So why is Eitz machol, a tree where the food and the tree taste the same? That's referring to peppercorns. Now, why is there a chiddush that peppercorns should be chayav v'nola? Why should they not be chayav v'nola? Who wants to suggest an answer? Oh, it's like taste this. I was hoping someone to say Rashi first. What? Okay, right. Let's come to you answer in one moment. What's the chiddush that peppercorns require ola? Rashi says that ola only applies to trees, not to bushes, and it grows on the bush. So you might thought there's no ola. Kamash malon, it's a unique kind of bush. It's a tree-like kind of bush, and therefore it's chayav and ola. That's how Rashi explains it. So you bear eights according to Rashi. Peppercorns would be very pre ha'etz, which we do not say. The reason we don't is because that is it's like Tosis. Tosis says the chiddush that you need ola is because it doesn't really taste edible. It's a very hard. You can't eat it on its own. Since you can't eat it on its own, so therefore you might have thought it's not chayv and ola. Kamash b'lona it's chayv and ola since it enhances other foods. And now Rameir says as a side point, the fact that the term mentions ola even by peppercorns teaches us ve'en eretz yisrael chaseo klum. That Torah also teaches us that even that can grow in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael can produce a huge variety of different plants, more than any country. No other country can provide that different, so many varieties. So the question more is now, getting back to the main question. Why did we say when the Torah says Priyes Hada refers to the esrog? It's because it's something which the tree and the fruit taste the same. Asks more, maybe we should, instead of taking an esrog, which is so expensive, and people yesterday were complaining, we should take peppercorns. Says, well, no. It's impossible. Why? What should we do? Take one tiny pepper thing. You won't notice it because it's such a small thing. It's like a tiny, tiny little plant. So it says take three, singular, only one, not two. Therefore it's impossible. So at this stage of the Gemara, the clue that creates hadar means an esrog is because it's something where the fruit and the tree taste the same. There's another one like that, but the Torah can't possibly refer to that one because that is a fruit which is it's too small. It's too small. We will see the word hadar. How do you translate the word hadar? Beautiful. So it's interesting. I was thinking about just saying that. Do you see that an esrog is beautiful, or what is the beauty of the esrog? Maybe the Torah just means pre-A's hadar. Make sure that it's a beautiful one. If it's a peppercorn, you would have to take one which is a beautiful one which is unblemished, which got no worms on it, etc. But you've got to know why a hadar. I don't know if you've got proof that hadar necessarily means an esrog. We'll see other explanations in a moment. The Gemara's only given one explanation so far. Pre-A's hadar, it's a tree where
to look at.
Right.
A peppercorn, if you can see it,
yes,
it is not particularly pleasing to the eye.
That's I'm not sure if you can say that's something which is every person has that's of taste. That's right, it's a matter of taste. I don't know if the word does not say ever hadar is beautiful, esrog is beautiful, it must be esrog. The word doesn't say that because that's something which is a matter of taste. Says the Gemara. Another explanation how the word hadar comes to mean an esrog. Article hadar al hadir. Hadir is an animal pen. In an animal pen, it is normal to find old cows, young cows, baby cows, etc. Just like a pen, big, small, blemished, and unblemished. In an esrog tree, you can find all kinds, all sorts of kinds of things. Does not all trees have that? So they have a big apple, a small apple, etc. The fruit lasts, as we mentioned many times already, from year to year. So while you've got this year's crop growing, last year's crop is still on the tree. So it's got in it big and small. So that's the second explanation that of hadar. One explanation creates hadar is a fruit which the tree tastes like the tree. The fruit tastes like the tree. That's S. Another explanation, hadar is from the word dir. Dir means a pen. And it's a reference to the esrog tree that has in it big and small babies and old ones.
So the one that's tasting the same, is that from the word hadar or from creates?
Right, it's not from hadar. One's learning from creates, one's learning from hadar.
So they're both.
You can learn from both. I get the question. But Bavo Omar, he's got another explanation. Article hadar al hadar. Dar means lashon dira, living. Something that lives from year to year. Because it grows and it lasts from year to year. Rashi asks the question that really there's no difference between this and Levi. They're both emphasizing the aspect of the esrog that fruit lasts from year to year, they don't fall off at the end of the year. Rashi says the difference is only how to translate the word hada. Is it to try to say the word hada from door, from living, that the esrog lives on the tree for many years? Or is it from the word hada, lashon dir, which means an animal pen, because it's got big and small? The other man, Doma, said 3/8, he's pointing out the aspect of the fruit is very bitter, it's mostly rind, like the tree. These Rebbe and Ravo are both emphasizing the fact that the esrog stays from year to year, but each one learns it from a different aspect of the word. Says the fourth explanation. Water is called idol. And fascinating, somebody told me today, if you talk about hydropower, what?
Yeah, hydro.
Hydropower or hydrotherapy. What's hydropower if you Google it? Water energy. The word hydro means water. Hydrate. Something's dehydrated or hydrated. So ido, hodo means water. It is something that grows on water. That is an esrog. Oh, no, I tell you. I'll tell you two very, very quickly stories. Both I heard it from the person that happened to. One was with Zav left. I told him I should travel with him. He plants an esrog tree, lives in Mashama Tisal. And he said he was never doing well. You get a few esrogim. And he always assumed that there was something blighted wrong with the tree. One year, it happened to rain a very, very lot that year. And it came out an abundance of esrogim. So the next year, decided to water it, not just like the recommendation, but to water it and water it and water it. And what happened was, every year since, he's always had many more esrogim. So now you can see the words of Chazal that an esrog requires a very, very lot. The more you water it, the better the. Oh, so he's trying to get in. So the more it produces. That is one. So another tiny story that's from Michael the Lefkowitz, I'm sure you all know that it's from Chazanish. After he used his esrog, Michael the Lefkowitz said to him, "Can I take your pips?" So he took the pips and he planted a esrogim. So it's Michael the Lefkowitz esrogim, which meant to be quite unique. Chazanish used them. So when Vina, I learned by, he told me that one year, he went on a holiday, what could do a holiday in Eretz, so he lived in Ramot. So he decided to swap a deal with somebody in Bnei Brak. And he saw Rebbetzin Lefkowitz going with a bucket of water from our house to water the Sturgin, from our house to water the Sturgin. So he went to a DIY shop, bought a hose pipe with the attachment, showed her how to do it. And he said, Michael Lefkowitz came to him later, with tremendous gratitude, all the years of schlepping water with a simple hose pipe. It's a huge time. So he said to him, "How can I repay you?" So he said, "Give me one esrog, please." So what happened was, for some odd reason, that year, the esrog, she did not produce good esrogim. Michael Lefkowitz said to him, "I'm very, very, very sorry, it'll have to be a different year." But the next year, Michael Lefkowitz forgot. So I felt bad to ask him, so he actually got that esrog. It's just interesting how Chazal told us that you need water. It's interesting. The more you water it, the better you'll have. Okay, so I have four explanations how pre-8 hodol means an esrog, going in order. Either pre-8, the tree and the fruit taste the same, or hodol means deer, like a pen, big and small, because they're esrogim of this year, or growing at that class, or hador, from living. The esrog lives on the tree for many years. Hador means water, like hydro, we said. Hydration. The word is a word of water. It's something which requires a very lot of water. Okay. Now we go back to the Mishnah, all the halachas. Why is that shir possible? My time give the sefer koi. Since it's meant to be burned, it is as if it has been cut, meaning as if there's nothing there. You got no shir. Shall all apostle my time? Why is all no good? You're not allowed to eat it. There's no monetary value to it. Like this. The Torah says, you should take for yourself. They both dash in the word lochem. The word lochem means that it's something which is yours. There are two ways to understand something which is yours. Either it is yours in the sense that you can eat it and enjoy it in any way that you wish, or that it's yours that has monetary value. Although the first 3 years that the tree grows, you're not allowed to get pleasure from it. Shalom, I don't know if you remember, your parents once got a fruit tree and they bought it from a nursery. We are neighbors, well, we used to be anyway. ex-neighbors. We fell out. So what happened was his parents got I think it was a nut tree, could it be? Or a apple tree. And what happened was they bought it from a nursery and it produced fruit less than 3 years after we planted. So they had to destroy the fruit because it was olam. And you're not even allowed to get any pledge from it. You're not allowed to, there's a mitzvah to burn the fruit of olam. So if you buy from normally fruit trees don't produce that much the first 3 years, but if you buy from a nursery. Now with the the Talmud of Rabbi Elyashiv once wrote an entire booklet that he did the most greatest thing in the world. What was Rafati's invention? He went to all the nurseries of Eretz Yisrael. Nurseries I'm talking about of nurseries that grow trees, not baby nurseries. I'm not sure if there's better words for tree nurseries. And he asked them that when they take trees from their garden, well, you want to buy a nut tree, an apple tree, you can't get planted for this, it takes years and years. You go to this, you buy one. And they should leave it within a bag with soil inside it, so that way it should not start again the 3 years of olive. He once wrote a booklet about how brilliant his invention is, because he has saved hundreds of thousands of people meeting olam. Because by just asking them and they agreed to it, he explained to them the minimal amount they need, how much soil and how much bag. Anyway, Maisa olam you cannot eat, and it has no monetary value. You can't get pleasure, but you're not allowed to get pleasure, not allowed to feed it to your dog, right? If you've got a dog, and the apple tree produces less things, you can't feed it to your dog. It's osman. So the Mishnah tells us that an esrog of an ola tree cannot be used. There's an argument why. Everybody agrees from the word lochem. There's a slight nuanced argument. Is it not yours because you can't eat it? Is it not yours because there's no monetary value? What's the nafkimina? There are cases where you can't eat it, but it's still got monetary value. And there's cases when you can eat it, but it's got no monetary value. This is quite complicated, but it's geschmack if you think about it. A simple case where you can't eat it, but it's got monetary value, is all produce which you haven't taken Tumas Hamaisis from, something which is called Teva. Teva, you haven't taken Tumas Hamaisis from. Are you allowed to eat it? No. Does it have monetary value? Of course it does. All you need to do is take a small percentage and give it to the Kohen and the Levi, and the rest of it you can eat it. If I go to the marketplace and I buy 1,000 kilo of grain, I haven't taken Tumas of it. Is it worth? It's worth a tremendous amount. I can do a lot with it. I can marry a woman with it. I can give it to you as a present. I can do whatever I want with it. I can't eat it. So if you hold that lochem means I can eat it. So if I've got an esrog of teva, I won't be able to use it. If you hold that the main thing is that it has monetary value, so an esrog of teva has monetary value. Now, when do you have something where you're allowed to eat it, but it has no monetary value? This is a bit of a tricky one. This is referring to Maisa Shein in Yerushalayim. The halacha is that we said the first, second, fourth, and fifth years of Shemitah, you have to take 10% after you've given the Kohen and Levi and eat it in Yerushalayim. That is a machlokes of Meir and the Chachamim, is Ma'aser Sheni Momon Gavoya and Momon Hedet. It's a very beautiful Lomdisha question. Is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you it's not yours? You can eat it in Yerushalayim, or Hashem says it's yours, but on condition you're allowed to eat it. You can only eat it in Yerushalayim. That means, is it ours? But the Torah limits how we can eat it only in Yerushalayim, or it belongs to Hashem. Hashem says, "Come to Yerushalayim and eat it." The nafkimina would be, can you make kaddish at Isha? To make kaddish at Isha, it has to be yours, right? So let's say, for example, I take a fruit, a bunch of grapes of Ma'aser Sheni. I'm only allowed to eat in Yerushalayim. I go to Yerushalayim and I go to a woman and say, "Hariyat Kadeshes li, not betabazu," with this bunch of grapes. If you say that it's mine, and the Torah says I can eat it in Yerushalayim, so I'm kaddish, it's good kedusha. If it belongs to Hashem, not. I mean, once mentioned, I mentioned it again and again because it's a fascinating shaila. Let's say, why? A bunch of grapes is very nice. I'll ask you a very interesting question. This is a question which comes up a bit, which is many Moshe Bayis talks about. Let's say I go to a kiddush, I'm making kiddush, right? I come to your house, make kiddush, and I pick up a piece of cake, and I walk up to the ladies, and I say, "Hariyat Mikudeshes li," this piece of cake. Can I do it or not? What would you say? Wait a second. When you make a kiddush, do you allow people to eat cake? Hopefully, yes. Otherwise, people won't come to the government. People not. I don't know. Oh, is that how it goes? That is the shaila. Is it that it belongs to the balabos? He's giving you permission to eat it. Oh, right. Many persons say like. It's not yours. It's never yours. You're allowed to eat it, but you're never yours. No, you're not a yash. If you put a platter of cake and I go out of the room with a platter of cake and take it outside and distribute it to the goyim around, it would be quite irritated to me.
But to people who go to
No, like Ian said, we'll argue about it another time. No, we haven't got time. Oh yes, it's a chashash. This is an argument. But Pashtus, this is an interesting question. Pashtus is like what that what happens is like this. You don't give it to me. You're never allowing me to eat. You allow me to eat it. It's not mine. So if I go to the ladies and the Kaddish Isha with it, the Kedusha will not be chal. Because it's not mine. It's the Bala Simchas, but with permission to eat it. Now, the same thing with Ma'aser Sheni. So let's go very slowly. The Mishnah says, Olo, can you be yotze with the esrog of Olo? No. Why not? We have an argument. Both say it's not lochem. Question is, why it's not lochem? It's not lochem because you can't eat it. It's not lochem because it has no monetary value. The nafkamina will be in a case of, let's say, tevel, which has monetary value, you can't eat it. Or Ma'aser Sheni, which has monetary, you can't eat it, but has no monetary value. Now, that Ma'aser Sheni has no monetary value is a machlekes of the Chachamim, because in fact the Chachamim say that Ma'aser Sheni is moment head that it belongs to every individual. Hashem gave it to you; it's yours with condition that you eat it in Yerushalayim. Now the Gemara goes through these cheshbonos we just said in Zipur. Let's see if we do the cheshbonos inside. The Gemara says like this. Let's start again very quickly. Shall all apostle, my time. Think about Chibab Navasi. Chadam lefishim b'tachili you can't eat it. Chadam lefishim b'din moment that you can't. It's got no money. Kosar kadati. The Gemara thought in the heaven. Man the boy achile leboidin moment. All you need is a shroud to eat it, and if it has no money value. Man the boidin moment the boy achile does not require a shroud to eat it. Now the Gemara asks. Tanan shall truma tamei apostle. Truma which is tummy is possible. Now, too much is tummy. Who can eat it? Only a kohen. Can't eat because it's tummy. What can he do with it? He can use it for fuel. So, well, you can't eat it. Shapi, you can't eat it. You can use it as heating fuel, or you can use it to cook your cholent. So, what's wrong with tumah tameh? Why can't I use an esrog of tumah tameh? Everybody agrees you have to be able to eat it. So, let me ask you: an esrog of tevel, would I be yotze or not? No, very good. I'm very happy. Why? Because you can't eat it, and everybody agrees it has to be able to eat it. Please give it in mammon. Be on the main thing is you can eat it. Didn't mammon no be on. That it should have a monetary value we don't need. You also have to have a monetary value. My benayu. You're allowed to eat it. It belongs to Hashem. It's not your money, and therefore you can't be yotze. So according to this, let me ask: if somebody would come up to you and say to you, "I want to know, I've got an esrog which is Ma'aser Sheni in Yerushalayim. Can I shake it for my album minimum or not?" What would you answer? Now, this is not a very straightforward answer. So think. Oh, very good. Good. It's a double machloikus. Let's get it again. I ask you, Ma'aser Sheni esrog, to shake it in Yerushalayim is a double machloikus. Argument number one: does it have to have a money value? One man says maybe you can eat it. Since you can eat it, there's no question it's okay. The other man says no, it has to have a monetary value. But even according to him, it's a machloikus. Because has it got a monetary value? That's a machloikus of the Chachamim. The Chachamim say yes, it does because it belongs to you. Only the Hashem says eat in Yerushalayim. And the mayor says no, it doesn't. It belongs to Hashem. You eat it from his table. So according to the man, the Omar, that it has to be a monetary value. And if you hold like Rameya, that esrog, which is Ma'aser Sheni, would be no good. But if you hold that you need to eat it, you can eat it. If you need to eat it. Or if you hold like the Chachamim that Ma'aser Sheni belongs to, that's fine. So it's a double machlekes b'mach. Says what? Tistayim, let's prove the Avasi Doman Efishim B'dimon. Before we said two people argue without specifying who said what. Let's prove the Avasi is the one who said it has to be money. But Avasi is going to tell us three halachas, many halachas, of things which are no good, all with the same logic, all Ma'aser Sheni, all in Yerushalayim, all according to Rameya that holds the Ma'aser Sheni doesn't belong to you. Why? Says the Gemara, the Omavasi esrog shel Ma'aser Sheni the Divrei Rameya in Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Yom Tov. You can't use it. The Divrei Chachamim Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Yom Tov this time. So Avasi is the one who holds it has to have a money value. Gufa. Omavasi esrog shel Ma'aser Sheni Divrei Rameya in Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Yom Tov. The Divrei Chachamim Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Yom Tov. According to Rameya, it has to be used. It has to be monetary value, and it isn't. For the Chachamim, you can't be yotze. Matzah shel Ma'aser Sheni the Divrei Rameya in Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Pesach. You're not yotze on Pesach. The Divrei Chachamim Adam Yitz b'yidei Chavasa b'Pesach. You can. The halacha is we're going to prove soon that matzah has to be yours, and this is a big shiloh. My sons, every year they say to me before Pesach, we want that you should be makna to us the matzahs. Makna to us the matzahs. That means we should pick up the matzahs that belong to us, because there's a shitta that holds that matzahs, if they're not yours, they're not yours. And that's what Avasi holds that the matzah sheni in Yerushalayim. It has to, you can't be yotzer if it's matzah according to Amir. We said at the time, if you remember, Pesachim, the Yashiv holds that you do not need to be machmir. Why not? Because when you give somebody the ability to eat a matzah, you obviously believe that it's his. You can't compare necessarily to a kiddush, even though it's very likely it's the same. It's not necessarily the same, because when you give a matzah to your children Seder night, you're giving it to them to be yotzer the mitzvah. When you put that cake at a kiddush, you're not giving it to people away. You're giving it that they should enjoy it, but not that they should actually become theirs. Okay. It says finally, Isa shel ma'aser sheni l'divrei Amer, petur min ha'chalo l'divrei chachamim v'chayeves b'chalo. Again, by chalo as well, it has to be yours. Maskelo apapa v'ishlevi Isa ksiv v'ishav isoy seichem. It has to be yours. Avisoy seichem means your do. Esek nami ksiv lochem misholochem. Ela matzah b'iksim matzaschem. Does anywhere the Torah say it has to be your matzah? But that says lechem moini. On the top of lechem here with base. There's referring to challah. So that proves that matzah has to be yours, challah has to be yours, and other minim have to be yours. And therefore, in all these three cases, according to Amir, if it's ma'aser sheni Yerushalayim, you'll not be able to. Levi Messiah, let's prove like of Asi. Isa Shabbai says sheni p'tur b'da challah divrei Amir. Amir says it's potter v'chomim mechaves b'challah. Levi Messiah says the more he. It's exactly the same statement. What was of Asi's statement? That do in Eretz Yerushalayim is not is going to be chayv ma'aser sheni. He's not chayv ma'aser sheni according to Amir because it's not his. That's the exact same statement as the Brisa. Levi Messiah means I can infer from a Brisa the same halacha. Here it's not a matter of inferring. The Brisa says the words of Avasi. It says, well, no. And therefore you've got no proof. Meaning, but Avasi didn't just say it by challah. He also said it by arba minim, and he also said it by matzah. And the chiddush of Avasi was that he enlarged the question much bigger than it started off. It started off a question regarding Challah Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim, and it has spread now to Matzah and also to Avaminim. Says the Gemara that we wanted to infer from the Brisa that since they argue by Challah, they argue by these as well. And Gemara says the inference is not necessarily proven. Why not? Because by Challah the Torah says Avisusechem your dough twice. Since the Torah specifies twice, it shall be your dough. Therefore, Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim is not really your dough. When it comes to the challah, when it comes to the matzah, it doesn't say twice. And therefore, the fact that it's yours enough that you're allowed to eat it, that could necessarily be enough. The way you explain, there's different levels of being yours. Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim, you're allowed to eat it, so it could be that's good enough to be considered your matzah.
These things being yours, paying for
yes. Yeah, yes, 100%. You should clear, let's say you give a check to Abba minimum, you should either make sure that he has enough time to be able to cash the check. You give it to him just before Yom Tov, it's a problem. You can, and you have to pay fully. If you haven't paid at all, let's say you say pay after Succa, it's no good at all.
You have paid by credit card?
By credit card, as far as I understand, credit cards are cleared quite quickly. How long does it take credit card to clear? That's no good idea.
What if you do it on account with a shop?
That's also a problem. The reason is like this. Really, when you pick something up, it's yours. And the shopkeeper, when he gives it to you and he allows you to pick it up, you're kohen. But there are those who hold that the king of Kesser for money is a much better king. And therefore, if you're paying for it, it's better that you should have make sure the funds are cleared before Pesach for your matzah and before Sukkot for your Avamid. You should. You can. Says the Gemara. So Tumah Tmei Apostle. Why is Tumah Tmei Apostle? The less better achila because you can't eat it, and everybody agrees you have to be able to eat it. But Shal Tumah Tehor Lo Yitel. If you've got Tumah, what's Tumah? Let's say I've got an orchard of a Esrogim. or to make sure that whatever funds you pay a check. If you pay it 3 days before Succa, so it's enough time for them to cash it. No,
And you not cash.
that's their choice as far as I'm
Go to
aware.
the bank and get.
Yeah, as far as I understand.
Friday to clear in the bank. It's not.
You mean it could take 5 days to clear? You're right. Okay, so you have to make sure that the funds are cleared before Yom. But
I can't give him a check, and then he only decide that he brings
a
it
month
after
later,
Yom.
yeah, that's his.
Or it's not my problem. You have enough time.
There is actually those that hold that's it's better that the funds should be. Okay. What comes with it? Let's go. Let's say I've got an orchard of a Suigim. So I've got 100,000 of Suigim. It's a nice number. So I have to give, how much do I have to give to the Kohen? A 40th, a 50th, or a 60th. So I've got 100,000, I'd have to give him 2,000 of Suigim approximately. What's he going to do with those Suigim? Says the Mishnah that he can't use them for Abba Minim. Why not? Why can't he use them for Abba Minim? He's allowed to eat them, it's his. He's even allowed to get, what? A 40th, 50th, no, 40th, or 50th, or 60th. I said 2,000, not 100,000. What did I say? I said I had 100,000 this week. I'm being optimistic. So 50th, which is the middle number, is 2,000. So now, you can't use it for Yavah Minim. Why can't you use it for Yavah Minim? What else is the guy going to do with 2,000 this week if you can't shake the Yavah Minim? Says the Gemara, why not? Pligi bo Babi Barasi. Chad Oma mipnei shemachshiro v'chad Oma mipnei shemafsida. There's a special mitzvah when it comes to Truma that you have to look after it. Shmeres Trumoisai, you have to guard the Truma. Now, if you keep shaking the Truma, the essence, what will happen when you want to eat it after Sukkot? No, it will be discolored and dirty and horrible. So if that's the case, you're ruining the esrog. So therefore you can't shake your esrog. You can't use it. The Kohen will have to eat it and not shake it because it will ruin the esrog. What? Yes, it's all the cycle. All 2,000, so we have to eat them. Because if he shakes them, it will ruin them. You get quite dirty there. So another explanation is, but the fact is, it does ruin your ability to be able to eat it. We'll come to it in the Mamish in a minute. Let's get to it. But Pashas, you really, the Maisa, if after Sukkot, I give you my esrog to eat, you'll be less interested in eating it. Part of the mitzvah is to look after the two. Yes, 100%, 100%. But this is to add Truma. Truma, there's a mitzvah to guard it. Since there's a mitzvah to guard it, so if you have to guard it, let's say Kohen says, I don't want the Truma, I want to use the Truma to I don't know what, to play with. He's not allowed to. The Shmeres to Moishe says he has to guard it. So let's back the fruit of Shemitah, where you've got mitzvah to look after it. Now, another explanation is like this. The halacha is for something to become Tomei, what does it have to first happen to it? Have to become wet. Hechsha. It has to become muksha, become to become wet. Now, ordinarily, the esrogim will not have become wet, and therefore they can't become tummy. But if you shake it without a minim, your esrog is going to get wet. Why will your esrog get wet if you shake it without a minim? No. What? Explain better. Very good. The Mishnah tells us later that after you use the aluminium, you should put them in water that they shouldn't dry out. So therefore, that lulav and nadas and avavas were often moist because you'd stick them into the water. Rashi points out this Mishnah. You put it into water, they shouldn't dry up. So if you want to make sure that they shouldn't dry up, and then afterwards you put the acid next to the lulav and nadasim, they're going to get wet. So you're either going to ruin the esrog by making it dirty or by making muksha look habatum. So no, he's upset they should get wet. But the fact is, he's putting it next to each other. They have to have das. Maybe he won't have das. Maybe he won't. We'll forget.
No, there's a problem.
Yes. Putting it back into water. I just want to point out a chumrah. I see another chumrah, but it is an interesting chumrah maybe Shalom knows about, and that is there are many places that hold that cooked hadasman avavos are possible. Cooked. They say, who cooks the hadasman avavos? The halacha is anything which is left be saturated in water for 24 hours is halachically cooked. Kavush kemavush. Therefore, let's say, for example, you take your hadasman avavos, you want it to be fresh. So you fill your bathtub with water, you take a bowl and you fill it up with water. And you drop your hadasman avavos inside them, and you leave them there for 24 hours. According to many poskim, you've actually passed your hadasman and your
That's to cover the whole thing.
If you wrap them in wet now.
Lots and lots of questions. Most times you could definitely be making because for college, take that for 23 hours. Kivega says that. Take it out. Kivega says that. Take it out. Let it dry, and then put it back in. But
You have to have the whole thing in.
the question is, what happens if only half of it? Almost only half of it. These are all shilas. Pashas, the bit that is soaking water could be kosher kavashal. But everybody agrees that moisture is not kosher kavashal. It has to be water, not moisture. So let's say you wrap it in a wet, damp towel that's not kosher kavashal. But as I've mentioned, before, this is a problem that people sometimes are not aware. And I see my bond every so often they bring out a thing about sukkahs. They say to people, be careful, don't leave it to be cooked. Don't leave your das and ovens for in the bowl.
You have a problem after if it's day 2.
Why?
It doesn't really dry. So if you've had it for the whole of day 1 and then on Friday, you take out the cup after short, put it back in again.
It has to be 20 hours consecutive, yeah?
No, you said it has to dry in the middle. It won't dry in the middle.
No, as long as it's not, if it's not soaking water, that's dry. As long as it's not covered in water, that's good enough. I didn't mean dry as earth dry. What? Yes. I found it interesting the first year I was there, so I bought myself a nice minute. And then I traveled with them on the bus for about an hour. By the time I got there, the robbers were completely brittle, dry, because it's very, very hot. They were completely gone. They were like, I had to get myself another. As another set of hours. Okay, the English version is not quite as bad. So Gemara says like this.
How about in the fridge?
No, the fridge is not, it's fine. Okay, that's why, by the way, that if you go to a Gosha house, you should cover the surfaces of the fridge. Why should you cover the surface of the fridge? It's always cold. The answer is that if, let's say, they left, let's say, pork juice or something like that for 24 hours on the shelf, if there's liquid, which is treif for liquid for 24 hours on the shelf, it's as if the shelf's being cooked in treif for liquid, which means there's proper layers of treif. And if, let's say, you put down an apple, a moist apple there for 24 hours, it can boil it back. So you should make sure, if you've got a fridge, a freezer, a house, you should put a plastic sheet down or something that it shouldn't go directly on the surface of the non-juice. That is the correct thing to do. I'm not saying to you that if you don't, that you've eaten anything wrong. That is the correct what? It doesn't help you cleaning. It's covers so you have to cook it. Cleaning will not be good enough. It still would help you. Even if the fridge is off 24 hours.
It's in there.
It's still there. The is still there. I'm just telling you the correct thing to do. What? You can't cash in the fridge, but you just cover it and it's fine. Pesach time, do you cover your shelves in the fridge? I hope you will cover your shelves in the fridge. Pesach time. No, you don't. You just cover it. That's okay. Says the Gemara, my benai. What's the difference? This is what Andrew was saying. My benai. If you separate your esrog and you say that the esrog should be an esrog except for the pure, the man because you're machshavit, because at the end of the day, the whole esrog will become tummy. The man if you say you don't have to make a whole esrog into a mice. Let's say I've got 100,000 esrog. What I can do is like this. I can say 4,000, half a esrogim should become tumah. And which part of the half? The inner half. So if that's the case, which part is tumah? Only the inner half. And then the kohen can shake it. Why can he shake it? Because when you shake it, what you're ruining is only the outer half, not the inner half, and therefore it's okay. But not al kosher. If you take too much mice, it's okay. Man of this, better allowed to eat it. Man of this, but the moment he's got money. I mean, like this. It's just be aware that it is possible for a yid to own truma. Let's say Shon's a kohen, right? Oh, and Shon's also a kohen, and Shai got 3 kohen in here. Yes, and we also kohen 3 kohen. So let's say I've got produce, and I take trumas. I give it to Yeshua. Here is a big pile of grapes, truma grapes. He's allowed to sell it now. He can sell it to Esau. He can sell it to me. Now, what would I do with truma if saying I'm not a kohen? What could I do with it? I could sell it to a kohen. Alternatively, I could give it to my grandson if my daughter married a kohen. So my grandson would be allowed to eat truma. And let's say I've got my grandchildren coming for Yom Tov, I can't afford to feed them. That he will want to sell it for cheap because he's got loads of Trumas and Maisas. What's he going to do with it? So he can sell it to me, and then I can feed my grandson Truma because if my grandson. So the point is, if somebody would say to you, does Truma have monetary value? Of course it does. It's a proper commodity. The fact that it's got restrictions, who can eat it and how, it doesn't lose. It's not like, for example, Maisa Sheni, where you cannot sell it. You can't sell Maisa Sheni. When you go to Shalayim, you can invite people to eat from the same food, but you can't sell Maisa Sheni on. Okay. Says the Gemara, Vishal Demai. Demai is what's Demai? Demai is produce that comes from Amoritz, but most of it takes from some Maisas, but minority didn't. My time at the Bisila. Why do we still say it's okay? Keep the boom after the Nichse Vavoni. The halach is that a poor man is allowed to eat Demai without taking to some Maisas. Since it's only midrabanan, they allowed the poor to eat Demai without taking to some Maisas. So therefore, if I take an esrog of Demai, since I have the option to be mafki everything that I own, and thereby to be poverty stricken, so therefore I could then be able to eat Demai. So therefore, I'm allowed to take an esrog of Demai. You're allowed to feed the poor and achsanya. Achsanya is the army of the king that they used to force people to look after them. You can feed them Demai. They're not allowed to. Oh, and that says you're not allowed. The Shabbos say so if somebody would ask you, what's the nekudas machlokes? What is the basis of the argument between Shammai and Basilam as to whether you're allowed to use an esrog of Demai or not? What is the nekudas machlokes? What is the point of contention? What is the point of contention as to whether you're allowed to use an esrog of Demai on Succas?
And if you made tonight inside or the outside.
No, Demai. The point of contention is a poor man allowed to eat Demai? If a poor man is allowed to eat Demai, so I'm also allowed to use it, because if I'm not poor, I could potentially become poor, so I have some connection to the esrog. If a poor man is not allowed to eat Demai, so therefore I'm not allowed to. Let's go weiter. Because we match the kavatuma machshiro. Mafsida, you're going to ruin it. Ma'aser sheni is meant to be eaten, not meant to be played around with. So you can't use Ma'aser sheni for shaking. From not al kosher madam v'teisha but achila divako. The madam al fisher but didn't mom with no money. Rabbanon they say you could to chachamim. According to our mayor, you would not be allowed to use Ma'aser sheni esrog in Yerushalayim because he holds Mamun Gavoya, and according to him, you would not be allowed to use Ma'aser sheni esrog. Also chazozes, if a boil comes up on it. Omar Rav Chesed Davozer when Yagodol Omoy Vav told us this halacha. Hamokim yeh be'ezroi, Hashem should help him and support him because it is something which is so special. If the boils are spread out, it is okay. Rava said to him, on the contrary, if it's scattered, it's possible. And safe it's and miyute kosher. If it's a minimal amount, it's kosher. If there's a boil on 2 or 3 different places, it is possible. On its top, even a tiny amount is possible. So now, I just want to very, very briefly. There's many different shittas. What is the chaytim? Rashi holds the chaytim is from the place where it starts slanting upwards. You see, this is the chaytim according to Rashi. The Rambam holds only the very, very, very top is called the chaytim. Literally, the very, very top is called the chaytim. The Rosh, what? No, not the pitam. The bottom half of the pitam. The bottom half of the pitam. And according to the Rosh, it's actually the entire area where it is, which slants. According to Rashi, it's even the very top area slants. According to Rosh, it's even further. Now, let's just get it very clear. It comes out like this. If you've got a boil on the esrog, if it's only one, then is it okay? Depends where it is. If it's on the chaytim, it's no good. Everywhere else, it's okay. If it's 2 or 3, then it is possible everywhere. So you have to be very, very careful that you shouldn't have
anywhere on the earth.
Anywhere in the esrog, it's possible.
2.
Oh, they shouldn't ask, is it 2 or is it 3? That's what it says. Is it 2 or is it 3? Make up your mind. So it's 2 if it's bigger, 3 if it's smaller. But the point is, boil. Now I once went to Shlomo Zalman Ullman, and Sean, you'd be happy to hear this. He picked up the esrog like this. I can't see blemishes. Beautiful esrog. Actually, you're right. No, he doesn't like this.
They hold it arm length. No?
Not arm. Arm length. He was about this height. My father. Many people buy esrog aluminium from family Kern for years. What's coming to my father was next door to ask him to look at the aluminium. Yeah, so we take it back. But magnifying glass. The point is, the halacha l'maisa is that 1 on the chaytam or 2 or 3 anywhere it is possible.
We pass on the first minute.
No, we don't. Mechaber brings different shit. So really, once it goes to the sloping part, you have to be careful.
We're saying it's best to hold it on length or hold it.
I don't know. I don't have to do the pascal. I'm waiting for you to learn the halachas, and then that way at the end of this paper, you'll all teach it to me. Nitla pitbasoi. Let's do one more line. Nitla buchnosoi. Buchnosoi is a pestle. A pestle is like a piece of wood. By the top of it, it's got like a big knob, and you used to use it to crush crush spices. Mortar and pestle. Now, why do we say that? The reason is because he understood that the pitum is the entire pitum. It is not the top, what we call today the shoshanta, but the lower piece as well. Therefore, if a bit of it is left on it, it is okay. As long as some of the pitum was left on, that was his chiddush. But according to the person, he was saying that you need the whole thing to be missing. If part of it is still there, that's okay. That is Rashi's first explanation. But he says that his Rebbe had a different explanation. And that his Rebbe's explanation was that it's referring to the bottom half of the esrog, what we call the ukats. And Rashi over here says that he doesn't understand it, doesn't agree with it, and Rashi rejects it. And the Rebbe we shouldn't pass like the first explanation Rashi, that Buchnose is the entire top part until you've got nothing left on the bottom as possible. Okay, we're stopping here, we're up to Niklaf period. So we said tomorrow show normal like this. By the way, next week Mincha is much later. It changes to the second flag, and on Friday the shir will be between the 2 shachrises in Mitzvah Shem. That's after the 7:25 shachris, before the 8:30 shachris. Nice to see you, Toli Chesky. I hope you're having a good rejuvenating.